it's really been a struggle to create an organization that has such a wide overarching goal and philosophy and vision, and to get other people not just to see the vision but recognize it's important enough to support it. There's lots and lots of foundations that will give money to end poverty, or give money to end homelessness, or give money to end AIDS, or whatever. And then you write a grant saying, in 3 years we're going to reduce the incidence of AIDS by 10% in this community, etc. And they get the money and they do it, and they turn in their quarterly reports, etc. But when you say our goal is to do something that has never ever been done on the planet before, which is to create a global human society, the foundations are like, okay, well, what are you going to put in your quarterly report? And my response is, I haven't the slightest idea. We don't know how to do this. We have no idea how to do this. We're making this up as we go along. This is not a project. It's an experiment in living. This is an experiment in how human beings live their lives. We've been doing the experiment now for about 10,000 years wrong. And we've painted ourselves, we've got 10,000 years of paint that's painted us into a corner that we can't get out of. What we have to do is walk across some wet paint. We have to be willing to say, this is not the direction that human beings should be going in. When you look at the top of society and the bottom of society, and in some very, very strange ways, I've been blessed at being able to see the top of the society and the bottom of the society. I've hung out with presidents and prime ministers and Nobel laureates at one level, and I've hung out with poor rice farmers at another level, people in refugee camps at another level, and recognize that we all have the same basic needs. We all have the same basic desire. And so when I talk about our goal is creating a world that works for all, people start resonating with it. They start, oh, yes, I see that goal, I want that goal, that is also my goal. But when it comes time to actually doing the work, then it gets different, okay? And that's the part that's caused Commonwealth to kind of skate along the level of sustainability for a while, and now just kind of taking off because people are recognizing that our backs really are against the wall. We don't have a whole lot of choice in this. It's going to be, we are going to create a whole new society where humanity is not going to be on this planet. And our choices are that stark. We can do something about it, but it's going to take a radical reshifting of all of our priorities. And I'm saying, okay, let's start shifting. For those who get their security from the existence of the present system, it's the equivalent of asking them to die. It's the equivalent of asking them to go away and die, okay? What we're trying to say is, no, it's not quite death. It's a transformation. And smile, we'll get through the transformation. One of our organizers, Greg Ganshaw in St. Louis, came up with this really good metaphor that we're now working from. He was saying, in, I think it's 1961, President Kennedy challenged us to put a human being on the moon and bring them back safely, and to do that within 1 decade. And that was a stretching challenge. This was an unbelievable stretching challenge for this country. At the time he said that, the technology to get to the moon and back, human being or otherwise, simply didn't exist. Greg said to me, said the idea of creating a world that works for all is like me saying we're going to land a man on the sun and bring them back. Most people, when they hear it, it's like, oh, this is a great goal. This is something that I really want to do. I have no idea how to do it. So then you go off and you gotta live your normal life. So what Greg was suggesting is that what we have to do is kind of like do the first steps. And the first steps are around awareness, and the awareness of basic kinds of issues. The awareness that, first of all, in this society, we are no longer driven by vision. 200 some odd years ago, when the founders were sitting around in Philadelphia saying, what are we doing here? Some of them just wanting a better deal from King George. Some of them saying, well, we want to just establish a monarchy over here. And some of them saying, we could create a whole new kind of government. It was actually King George that called the question, that got them to start thinking that, oh, there's no going back here. What we're going to have to do is try to forge a new society. Fast forward 200 years, that vision, the vision of that says all human beings are created equal and are endowed with certain inalienable rights, with rights that cannot be taken away. That is no longer a vision that holds the center of our society. This is why our Congress can't make any decisions. This is why the Iraqi Congress, as soon as it's created, can't make any decisions. There's nothing that holds the center of the society. What we have to do is be about creating or finding or catalyzing that new center. What is the thing that all of us can see and all of us can agree to? What is the kind of world that we want to leave to our children and our grandchildren? This isn't, let's get the next guy elected, whoever the next guy is that's running. This isn't, let's try to get some bill passed to get cleaner air or get a better deal or whatever. This is looking at the direction of humanity on a planet. And we can see very clearly, ecologically, socially, culturally, and spiritually, that we're heading in the wrong direction. What we have to do is change direction in a very powerful way, but we have to know the direction that we're changing to. And this is why I put out the concept, the idea that says, my goal is to create a world that works for all. Now, if that's not your goal, then tell me what your goal is. If your goal is more compelling than creating a world that works for all, I'll put mine aside and I'll join yours. But what I've found is that most people they don't have visions, they have these kind of partial strategic goals. And they don't allow themselves to dream the big dream anymore. And so that's the thing that I'm committed to in my personal life. I'm committed to in my organizational life. And I believe that that's the destiny of our planet. How do we actually create a world that works for all beings? Everything that we've been taught in school tells us, and everything that we've been taught in our environment tells us that's not possible. You got to get yours, and maybe you can help a couple of other people, but the whole idea of the world working for 6 billion people, that just can't happen. But I believe that it can happen as long as we're willing to say, what am I willing to do? What am I willing to sacrifice? What am I willing to change about my own life in order to produce a world that can work for others, work for all others? Once we do that, I think things are going to get really, really interesting.